And we're live. Do we have audio? Yes, audio is critical. Audio is good. How we all doing? How we all doing on a Taco Tuesday? You gonna have tacos? Tacos are good. Nothing wrong with tacos. We've got a little bit of a hundreds of ballots possibly burned after Vancouver ballot box arson. This is in Portland, Oregon. And the other big story is just across the river. It's in Vancouver. We got a bunch of ballots that have been burned up. FBI is involved. This is a big, big story. All the major networks are covering it. Got to kill the audio on my phone. Sorry, folks. I was going to send my mom a link to this live stream, but didn't quite get to it. That 30-second timer went down. I was like, can't work it out. Back to the ballot boxes. Here, we're in election season. This is a big deal because what the left is going to do is they're going to blame all the folks on the far right, because the folks on the far right, the election deniers, they've got an issue with the ballot boxes. I have an issue with the ballot boxes. I have an issue with mailing in my ballot. I think we need to go back to where you got your damn ID and you walk into the voting booth and you do your thing. There's less monkeying around. This year, I got my ballot and I immediately went to the ballot box, which in Bellevue is highly secure. I mean, it's like cameras and, you know, I felt okay about that, but I didn't even want to mail it. Like the mailman. Well, what's the mailman going to do with my ballot? Is he going to change stuff in there? I don't know, right? Whereas when I went to the room where you had the shroud over your thing and you actually voted for somebody, that was always rather it was nerve-wracking, right? Like, oh man, are they gonna figure something out on me? This is weird. So let's get back to this story. But here's the main thing. Check this out. This is absolutely phenomenal. Can I get this so you can see it? Yeah. Pro-Trump. This is on this story. And there is nothing indicating that this is somebody from the far right. There's no affiliation with the far right in this story. But, yeah, somebody from the New Republic. I looked the site up. You can look it up too. It's a bunch of we hate Trump stuff. Pro-Trump election interference has begun in key swing districts. Well, wait a minute. Who's this is in Portland. This is in Vancouver. That's Antifa land, right? That is Antifa land. They hate, anti-fascist. They hate the government. Voting as the government. Burn it all to the ground. This is not the Proud Boys coming in, I don't believe, but we're going to touch on that as well. Let's look at the main story here. We're going to do a little bit of, I can't remember if this has audio or not, but let's watch. Let's go ahead and watch this clip.
Breaking news.
That breaking news, 2 incidents involving ballot boxes this morning. We'll start with what's happening in Vancouver. That is on the left side of your screen. We just watched firefighters pry open the back of this ballot box, which is obviously on fire. We were watching it smoke for the past half hour or so. This is at the Park and Ride drop-off ballot box at Fisher's Landing, right next to the C-Tran Transit building. We were watching police officers and firefighters sort of standing around this ballot box for a while, taking pictures. Then one of those firefighters just walked up with what looked like a crowbar, and they pulled the back of the ballot box out, and a bunch of ballots that are on fire poured out onto the ground. They're trying to put the fire out now. Obviously, it is steaming. It's pouring rain there. We don't know how many ballots were in this box, but obviously they are destroyed. This is going to be a big problem. This is happening again at the Park and Ride ballot location at Fisher's Landing in Vancouver. We're also tracking breaking news at the Multnomah County Elections Office. That is on the right side of your screen right now, where police found an incendiary device at this ballot box. We have K2's Joe English live on the scene there, gathering new information. That is obviously taped off as police investigate that. So big concerns at least 2 ballot boxes coming just 8 days before Election Day. K2's on your side. We're going to continue to track this breaking news for you. And obviously, if you're worried, if you're a voter, you need to call the elections office, especially if you dropped your ballot off at the box there on the left. What a crazy morning. Thanks for joining us. It is 6:30. I am
So you got some nut job, more than likely Antifa, running around and, you know, setting fire and blowing up election boxes. I mean, take a look at this. Take a look at this. Yeah, here we are. Now, you tell me. Here's Portland. I'll give you my little yellow guy so you can see what I'm pointing at. Here's Portland. Here's Vancouver. Here's that box. I think that other box was somewhere in here. I mean, this is like minutes apart. This is Antifa land. I would highly wager on the fact that this is the work of Antifa. But hey, let's go ahead and blame the Proud Boys just because, you know, because the media has been pretty wacky throughout this election, and they've come down on Trump on some wild stuff, but then they've also gone after Kamala Harris on some of the stuff as well. Don't know if you heard, but Trump was on Joe Rogan last Friday. They're trying to work out, even right now, they're trying to work out getting Kamala Harris on Joe Rogan's podcast. But Kamala is saying, we're going to do 1 hour and you got to come to where I am. And Joe's like, no, 3 hours and you come to Austin. You come to where I am. Yeah, just the whole thing is just kind of crazy. Vancouver ballot box was burned in an arson Monday morning, authorities report, with hundreds of ballots possibly damaged in the fire. Investigators believe the incident is connected to 2 other arson incidents in Portland and Southwest Washington. KATU was at the scene. We saw that. It was 4 a.m. It was a lot of smoke. It was, you know, raining like cats and dogs. So we've seen that footage. Clark County elections auditor told us that the last ballot pickup at that location was 11 a.m. Saturday. So you had Saturday afternoon and evening, all of Sunday, and then Monday. Oof. Hundreds of ballots inside. They were burned up. Link to the Clark County elections page with contact information for the yeah, whatever. We've seen that. Okay. Let's take a look at, so that's the guts of it, right? You got a couple of boxes that have been impacted. They've got one car. It's a, maybe we'll see the car. They've got they know who the car is. You know, I'm going to say it looks like Antifa. If 51 former military officials can say that the Hunter Biden laptop seemed like Russian misinformation or Russian disinformation, I can say that I think this story is related to Antifa because of the proximity to Portland and to Vancouver. You know what I mean? I mean, this just seems reasonable, right? Let's read this article. I want you to keep in mind, pro-Trump election interference has begun in key swing districts. Okay. Let's do this so you guys can, if you want to read along at the same time. Maybe you don't care. What I'm looking at here is, where does the pro-Trump interference come in? Ballot drop boxes in 2 states were set on fire, in Vancouver, and then they cover the exact same thing that we saw there. Clark County Auditor Greg Kinsey said that hundreds of ballots, Vancouver is located in Washington's 3rd Congressional District, where Democratic Representative Maria Gluesenkamp Perez is seeking to keep hold of the seat that she won 2 years ago, a major upset in a district that was long held by a Republican. So that is some of the narrative here. You've got some key districts, and that there's going to be pro-Trump. There's going to be Republican interference. While losing her House seat, yada, yada, don't care. Biden won Clark County, where Vancouver is located, in Portland, Oregon. A ballot box was lit on fire Monday. We talk about the story, talk about NBC News. It's unclear whether the 2 incidents were related, but the FBI is investigating them both. All right, that's good. FBI's on it. All right, that should work out great. In Phoenix, we go on to talk about another story we're going to look at. In Phoenix, a United States Postal Service mailbox was also lit on fire Monday, damaging a small number of mail-in ballots. So we've got this happening all over, and people are going to want to blame the far right. They just want to blame the right in general. Well, you guys were election deniers, so therefore you're firebombing the, ballot boxes. Really? Really? Okay. Because I'm just not seeing that. The stories of burning ballots followed a nearly 2-week-old warning from the Department of Homeland Security to law agencies across the country. All right, so this ends this article. Now, where in anywhere does it say any kind of support whatsoever for pro-Trump election interference? Where's the proof? Where's the proof? And this is why you got to be so careful with the media that you read, because I will oftentimes have talks with my friends, especially my friends that lean a little bit more left. And I do have a bunch because I want to know what they know and I want to kind of know what they're thinking, because then I have support for what I do, which is I believe things need to go more far right. They need to at least go to the middle. We're nowhere in the middle right now. But what I often say is, did you see that article? And they're like, yeah, I saw it. I'm like, did you read it? And they're like, no. But I mean, I assume it's this. And this is one of those articles where if you don't read it, you're like, oh yeah, this is pro-Trump election interference. For sure. This is just outright misleading, period. It just is. It is. Now we're going to keep going here. Because this whole notion of, well, let's blame it on the Oath Keepers. Let's blame it on the Proud Boys. I'm not really seeing that as a reality here in Portland, Oregon. Know what I mean? All right. This is from Department of Homeland Security. I'm not gonna do it up big. Let's see if we go like that. Can you guys read it? No, not really. I had this all set up earlier and it was better. Now it sucks. Oh, there's do we want to go there? Nope. I want to read that one right there for you. All right. Yep. I think you can read that. So this is literally from Department of Homeland Security. Do you ever look at this and go, man, that looks fake. That looks fake. And on the thing, it's got U.S. Department of Homeland Security and Office of Intelligence and Analysis. Again, okay, all right, but whatever. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt here. And this was a notice on September the 10th, 2024. Some social media users are discussing tactics and techniques to limit or avoid detection, including concealing identities with face masks. All right, Proud Boys don't wear face masks. Antifa does. Wearing gloves and hats. Yeah, Proud Boys, they might wear a MAGA hat, but gloves? No, they're not worried about their soft skin, right? Or leaving fingerprints. Operating at night? Total Antifa. Avoiding use of license plates? Antifa. Or personal vehicles and leaving electronic devices like cell phones at home. That is a known Antifa tactic, because you can't be tracked that way, right? Some social media users recommended masquerading as an ideological opponent and wearing clothes and masks associated with Antifa. This is Department of Homeland Security issuing this a month ago, right? 6 weeks ago. This is out there. It's known. This is what their intel has dug up. So, this whole notion of pro-Trump supporters, that's just not going to go anywhere. Fire set in drop boxes destroy hundreds of ballots in Washington and damage in Oregon. You got the AP, they drop a pretty big story on this. And I think it is much ado about nothing. I think you've got some nut jobs out there that are doing this kind of thing. And it's like, what's the point? How are you going to throw an election by destroying a handful of ballot boxes? What good is going to come of that? How does that work? You know what I mean? I mean, this just makes no sense. Folks are, they're pushing back on the whole ballot box thing, and I'm pushing back on the mail thing, because I don't think you should just be able to mail your vote in. I think that leaves a lot of room to just straight up fraud. I just do. I mean, you've got folks in nursing homes that get their ballots mailed there. Somebody's just, wanting to go one direction or the other. And hey, can you sign this, your mail-in ballot? Hey, let me help you out with that. Goes down party line, just checks. I'm not saying that's happening, but it certainly could be, right? I mean, that's a pretty easy thing to go, yeah, I can see that happening. Whereas the way we had it before, it's kind of like going to the airport. You got to show your ID 10 ways from Sunday, and then you get to vote. I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. But you've got a society that's going wildly the opposite direction, which is, you don't need ID anymore. You don't need any more governmental ID. You don't need anything for anything. And then you just get on a plane and they take you wherever, and it's all good. And I'm talking about the illegal immigrants coming into this country with zero ID, and they just say something. And they're basically, oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's your plane over there. It'll take you to New York City, Chicago, Denver, wherever you want to go. Let's see what the AP has to say. Incendiary devices were set off Monday at 2 ballot boxes, one in Portland, another in Vancouver, Washington, destroying hundreds of ballots in what one official called a direct attack on democracy. Well, it is. But is this, is this a huge deal? It might be the start. It might be the start, but almost guaranteed they're going to associate this with somebody from Antifa. I mean, the car was a sedan. You know what I'm saying? Oh, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's, a canary? No, right? I mean, early morning fire in the drop box in Portland was extinguished thanks to a suppression system inside the box, as well as a nearby security guard, police said, and just 3 ballots were damaged there. But within a few hours, this guy drives across the Columbia River in Washington, Vancouver, and because that box is located in the site of what is expected to be one of the closest U.S. House races in the country, because you've got that whole, tipping the House, you've got a ton of races that are really critical because Republicans only have I think a 4-seat majority. I mean, it's tipping all the time. It's like, oh, which way are we going to go? Wouldn't take much to get that to go either way. Ballot box in Vancouver also had fire suppression inside, but failed to prevent hundreds of ballots. That's the one that we saw just burning to a crisp. I mean, heartbreaking, Kimsey said. It's a direct attack on democracy. Yeah, we know that. But who's doing it? I want to know who's doing it, right? I mean, let's find them. Let's see what they've got going on. County also decided late Monday to hire workers through a staffing agency to monitor all of its drop boxes 24 hours a day until the election is over. I think a bunch of cities are going to do that because this system has so much room in it for error. It just does. I know Washington and Oregon are, and a handful of other states, I think. I don't really know. But, mail-in ballot, it's just like, why are we doing that? Right? I mean, why are we doing it? Convenience? Okay. I just don't feel secure. I feel a little bit more secure dropping my ballot in a box. But then again, who's picking it up? What are they doing with it? Where are they taking it? It's like the mailman taking your mail. You don't really know what happens to it. You hope it gets there on the other end. Talk about just some trust, right? Instead, they will call 911 if they see anything suspicious. So ballot drop boxes have faced increasing criticism, here we go, from Republicans and have been the focus of baseless right-wing conspiracy theories in recent years. Well, some of those, I think, are going to be proven to be true down the road. A bunch of them, probably not. There's no evidence. What I often say is, was the last election, was there interference? Absolutely. The Hunter Biden laptop story was a prime example of that. FBI had that laptop for a year, and they let that statement come out that Democrats widely supported. 51 or 52, I can't remember, former military agents, officials said, it sounds like Russian disinfo. And it got totally discredited. And, you know, my podcast here on News for Reasonable People, which at the time might have been Summit Properties, YouTube just said, yeah, we're not going to push that out. We don't really have any advertisers for that because we think that might be misinformation. Well, governmental entities, FBI, knew it wasn't. So that's how, you know, manipulation of media is how a lot of this is going down. And that's what's been so interesting about watching kind of some of what's going on with the media, actually putting some, you know, normal questions to Kamala Harris and having her answer them. And her answers are just so garbled and so just, what are you talking about? What literally, like, what are you saying? That's not the answer. And then you've got CBS with 60 Minutes basically cutting and pasting her answers to make her sound better. That's election interference. I'm not worried about the nut jobs that are burning up a few hundred ballots in a box. That is bad. But what I'm concerned about is how the media basically just takes one story and, you know, puts a halt on it and takes another story and boop. And this is one of those stories that could go, you know, baseless right-wing conspiracy theories. An AP press survey of state election officials across the U.S. found that there were no widespread issues with drop boxes in 2020 and none that could have affected the results. All right. But, you know, these races are getting so tight and so close that it only takes a handful, in the thousands to push an election one way or the other. 6 states have banned ballot drop boxes since 2020: Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, South Carolina, and South Dakota. All right. Other states have restricted their use, including Ohio and Iowa. Washington and Oregon, which are both vote by mail states, have long used ballot drop boxes. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago where, you know, you had to go in. I want to say, was it 2000 and, I want to say 8? When was ours? So 16, 12, 8, 2008. I voted in person. I remember doing that. That's the last one I remember. And then I think we've gone to this, you know, new world system that, I'm in a blue state, so I am very, very critical of everything that goes on around because, you know, government officials here, you just don't know. They're aligned differently. Authorities said at a news conference in Portland that enough material from the incendiary devices was recovered to show that the two fires Monday were connected, and that they were also connected to an October 8th incident when an incendiary device was placed at a different ballot drop box in Vancouver. Antifa. That's what it sounds like to me. Just, you know, straight up. Surveillance image captured a Volvo. Okay, so that was a Volvo. It's like a dark colored Volvo pulling up to a drop box in Portland, Oregon, just before security personnel nearby discovered a fire inside the box on Monday. So they know who it is. They've got pictures, the images of the car. It's not a truck. So therefore, I'm going to pull a 51 military intelligence agencies thing. It wasn't a truck, so therefore it couldn't have been the Proud Boys. Must be Antifa. I mean, that's as logical as anything, right? And then you throw on the whole layers of, well, it is in Portland. It is in Vancouver. Vancouver is very close to Portland. So, you know, the FBI is also investigating fire suppression system, yada, yada, just a bunch of stuff. Yeah, we've got, this was the Twitter feed of that fire. We already saw that. Here's the Arizona. Mail-in ballots damaged after United States Postal Service collection box was set on fire in Arizona. This is the other story that is being thrown around out there. And this one, I'm like, okay, all right. You probably just got a nut job running around. And this guy he didn't have any political affiliation. Phoenix police arrest Dieter Kloffkorn, who admitted to crime and said his actions were not politically motivated. Well, then why are you doing this? Is this an attention-seeking thing? What's the deal? Postal Service collection box was set on fire early Thursday in Phoenix. damaging a small number of mail-in ballots dropped off at the box. Local media reported the incident on Thursday, citing police and fire department officials who said the United States Postal Service mailbox was on fire at 1:30 a.m. local time. Guy was 35 years old. He was interviewed about the arson while in custody and admitted to the crime. Clough stated that he committed the arson because he wanted to be arrested and that his actions were not politically motivated and not related to anything involving the upcoming election. Excuse me. Who wants to get arrested? That's not, I don't know if you've been arrested before. It's not a fun process. So you got to be just, yeah, something's wrong, you know? Is this guy mental? Probably. Is the guy down in Portland mental? Probably. He's probably part of Antifa, and all those folks are mental, right? They're just, we're going to overthrow the government. We're going to try and light on fire a federal building. This should work out fine. I mean, just absolute anarchy and chaos in Portland, but we're going to blame the far right. Let's throw the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and, you know, everybody else under the bus just because mainstream media has said that the election deniers, you know, they are to blame for this lack of democracy if Trump wins. And I'm like, really? Really? Here's the talk I have with my friends is, all right, do you think Trump is, you know, a threat to democracy? Oh, yeah, yeah, I do. Which parts of your freedoms did you lose when he was in office from 2016 through 2020? That's how that goes. It's, you know, worse than a Kamala Harris answer, right? I mean, you didn't lose any, so why would this time be so wildly different? It's because mainstream media is looking for anything. They're throwing out the whole Nazi thing. They're throwing out the Nazi thing. And you're like, what? What? One of the networks, you know, clipped in an image of a Nazi, a Nazi gathering, and they overlaid it over the top of Trump's gathering in Madison Square Garden on Sunday night, I think that was. You've got some nut jobs running around out there, but they're not from the far right. The exact number of ballots affected is not certain yet. Police initially thought there were about 20 were damaged. All right, we're not throwing any elections with the number of ballots being damaged here, but there's enough, I think, feelings of insecurity about how this whole thing goes. And folks are like, well, wait a minute. What are we doing here? We need a more secure voting process, right? And then when you bring in millions and millions of illegals into the country, you know they're going to be voting soon. California's already said, you don't need ID to vote. You don't need anything. Just bring them in, they'll vote, it'll all be good. And so many of these contests, so many of these races come down to, you know, a handful of 1,000 votes. So how's that going to work out? All right, bring them in. It's good. It's all good. Bring in 7 million. How's that going to work? Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego previously said on Twitter X that she was concerned about the ballot fire. There is zero tolerance for criminal activity in our community. No kidding. And we're working collaboratively with every level of government to bring the perpetrators to justice. You got one guy, and he admitted to it. He just wanted to be arrested. So I think you've got a different deal on the whole situation happening in Portland and in Vancouver. I think that will be a big story because I don't think Antifa is going to stop doing this. And I'm going to throw out Antifa just because if other people can throw out just ridiculous like pro-Trump election interference has begun in key swing districts. So, you know, as big of a story is, let's keep going here. Lester Holt even did a piece that tells you what direction this is heading. Let's watch this real quick because you always want to see what the real misinformation is up to. And in this case, you can't really fry the story that bad. Somebody lit some boxes on fire, right? But let's go ahead and watch it anyway because these guys. Oops. start you over.
Investigating fires at 2 ballot drop boxes early today in Portland, Oregon and Vancouver, Washington. Laura Jarrett is following this. Laura, do authorities think these are related?
Yes, Lester. Authorities do believe these 2 fires are intentional and connected, as the same car was spotted at both locations today, as well as another incident earlier this month in Vancouver. The first fire today in Portland, Oregon, reported at around 3:30 this morning after someone attached an incendiary device to the side of a ballot drop box there. But the county election office says, quote, fire suppressant protected virtually all of the ballots there. Only 3 were damaged. Voters were contacted. But then, roughly 30 minutes later, police responding to another fire at a ballot box less than 10 miles to the north in Vancouver, Washington. Potentially hundreds of ballots there affected, according to officials. Now, the FBI is investigating tonight, but has not provided any indication of a motive. Voters can contact Clark County to confirm if their ballot was received and request a replacement ballot if necessary, Lester.
Okay, Laura, thank you for that.
So the fact that NBC is running that piece tells you kind of everything you need to know. They're going to, froth their base, which is, oh my gosh, democracy is at stake.
Tonight,
what are we going to do?
Israel has moved to ban a UN relief agency.
Here we go. We've got those silly Republicans just running around willy-nilly doing their own thing. And I don't think that's the case at all. So, yeah, crazy story. How's this going to end? They're going to find the guy. And he's in a world of hurt. Here is another, this is media related. And this one was super interesting from the standpoint of what this young lady has to say. I don't know who she is, but what she says in this little deal here is pretty entertaining. Let me get to, here we go. Go like this. Yeah, here we go.
For 1 week, 3-hour segments every day, prime time for 1 week. Article about CNN. This is fascinating. How many views do you think CNN got in prime time for 1 week, 3-hour segments every day, prime time for 1 week in May? What do you think?
One show.
3 hours for a week.
The cumulative of 3-hour show.
Correct.
5 million maybe? I don't know.
83,000.
That's crazy.
Lowest level of all time. Fox at the highest was 186,000. Think about what is happening right in front of us. The media is no longer actually reaching the masses because they've lost complete trust with them. In fact, 30-year-olds right now, for the first time ever, 30-year-olds have more trust in you, social media influencers, than they do the mainstream media. It's not the same for all age groups, but that is what I am seeing right in front of us, is we're like, show me what's real, because I do not trust puppets who parrot things from teleprompters. They know that you and I are having a real conversation. There's no teleprompter in sight. When you look at your notes, you look at your notes. It's real. And I think that is what I'm realizing with our message. We have to be honest, because nobody trusts anybody right now.
It's so true. I trust nobody.
An article about CNN.
You know what I mean? I don't trust NBC. I don't trust CBS. They're cutting and pasting content like there's no tomorrow. And, the stats that young lady just brought up are absolutely accurate from the standpoint of look at how this presidential election has shifted to podcasters of all people that are known for spitting out their opinion without a lot of research. Let's be honest. I do research, of course. This is news for reasonable people. This isn't news for, people who don't research things. But I've got an agenda too. I want to bring to light stories that don't get coverage in mainstream media because they're pushing a narrative. And so what we're saying here, and you look at how this election has gone, it's been fascinating to see Kamala Harris has been on Charlemagne the God, and you don't know probably who that is, but yeah, radio host guy. He thinks he's more important than he is. And she's also been on Call Her Daddy. Now that is an formally explicit, X-rated female podcast for, female sexuality and how to, do certain things. And hey, what's the best way to do this? Those are the kind of podcasts that Kamala Harris was on. Meanwhile, you've got Trump, and he gets on Joe Rogan. That was the big thing, because Rogan said in 2022, I am not supporting that guy. I'm not having him on my podcast. And he did. And now Kamala Harris is basically holding Joe Rogan hostage and saying, nope, I'm pretty busy as the vice president, got a lot going on. You're going to have to come to me, and we're only going to do 1 hour. Trump did 3 hours. I have listened to 1 hour of it. It's kind of boring. It's slow. It's steady. It's safe. It's everything that you think would come from a Joe Rogan podcast. There was no smoking the doobie. There was no drinking. There was no taking ayahuasca or anything crazy like that. It was just Trump doing Trump and Joe Rogan trying to keep him on track from, going in these wide circles that he takes. But he always comes back to the beginning. You're also starting to see, the media pounce on Trump for being, promoting Nazism, and also for him being crazy. Oh, he's lost his mind. Yeah, like the last 3.5, almost 4 years, Biden literally was losing his mind on a world stage. And yet the Democrats basically said, oh yeah, no, he's all good. He's our man. He's our guy. Literally, Gavin Newsom. I love when Trump does that, because it's just it's a locker room dig, right? It's a middle school dig at somebody's name. but I still laugh. You know why? Because it's funny. Newsom came right out and said, why would I question, President Biden? He is mentally fit. He is all there. He is our leader. He is who's going to take us into the results that are going to win us an election in 2024. Couple of weeks later, beep, Nancy Pelosi, hey, Joe, you got to go, because you absolutely butchered that last debate. And that debate was still so one-sided, but, it kind of just, all the debates have been one-sided by mainstream media. And what has been really interesting is CNN is actually asked Kamala Harris a handful of times some real questions with some not hardcore, follow-ups, but follow-ups enough where you got the feeling that Kamala Harris she's just not that smart. She's not that smart. How she became an attorney, number one, how she became a district attorney, number two, how she became an attorney general, I do not know. I mean, honestly, she just, I don't know what's going on in her head, but I'll take Trump's banter, and his wild circle, logic at times. I'll take that all day, because you at least know that the cylinders are firing in there. You're like, okay, my guy's old, but he can at least answer a question, and he can stay on topic, and he can talk for 3 hours. Hours 2 and 3 of a Kamala Harris podcast with Joe Rogan would be absolute train wreck, because she can't go more than 20 minutes. We saw that on, who was it? Oh, it was, Brett Baer on Fox. It went like 20, 25 minutes. And towards the end there, her people were absolutely yanking her off because she choked. She couldn't get out the answer, to her message, wasn't sure what her message was just kind of falling on herself. It was just this crazy, crazy deal. And so election 2024 is going to be a wild, wild event, because so much of what you see in the media is going to be focused on basically how to rig things one way or the other. And they're not rigging things in the direction of Orange Man bad, but also you heard how CNN's numbers are just absolutely, they're literally bottom of the charts. And what I was going to say is even my channel here, they're talking about 80-something thousand views in a week period. This video right here, Phillips 66 refinery closure, sparks backlash against Newsom. This one here, This has 158,000 views. So even on a small podcast with 140, what do we have? 2,000 subscribers, you hit the right topic. Podcasting is where it's at, because you get the feeling, hey, this guy's sharing his opinion on what's going on. And people want to see that more so than somebody who is literally reading a teleprompter and a script that he's being told what to say. Another couple of items that I thought have been really interesting has been the the Los Angeles Times and Washington Post have not endorsed a president. And they were full tilt, all ready to go. And they were going to obviously go Kamala Harris because no other mainstream media they're not going to endorse Trump. It's just not a thing. That's not happening, right? New York Post did. And that was like, oh, but if you see New York Post content, very pro, they're pro-America. And so they're going to, endorse the guy that they feel like is going to do that job. And so this notion that a whole bunch of people have quit working for the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos' newspaper, and also the Los Angeles Times. The Washington Post lost 20% is what is being thrown out there in social media. 20% of its viewership. I mean, of its subscriber base. They lost a huge chunk because the Washington Post wouldn't come right out. And you can get a sense for how ardent those subscribers are. And they just want to rubber stamp whatever it is that their political ideology is, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whether the person can actually answer something or if they can't. And Kamala Harris, her media surge here has not done her any favors because she's really proven, in my opinion, that she can't think on her feet. She can't create an argument. She must have had some okay people working for her when she was an attorney, because she certainly wasn't making the arguments. You know what I mean? And I think the American public, the reason that we're talking about election interference is that if Kamala Harris wins this next election, are people going to go, well, based on her interview here, based on her 60 Minutes piece, based on her, she didn't have a Joe Rogan interview because she knows that wouldn't have worked out well in her favor. But in all these her 60 Minutes segment, her sex, podcast, Call Her Daddy. I mean, people aren't going to look at all those pieces that she's been in and she's had conversations and go, oh, yeah, I'm voting for her because based on that, this is what I'm voting for. And that's where I think you're going to have the right and the far right are going to go, wait a minute. Books are cooked. Are they going to get cooked from, lighting these ballot boxes on fire? No, that's not how I'm seeing it. It would have to be in a much more, massive scale than what we've got going on here. But that's not what we're doing. Last thing I'm going to hit you up on is head on over to Reasonable TV. We've dropped the price there down to $3.99 a month because I just want to make it affordable. I'm putting a bunch of extra content on there. If you're a diehard for this show, love to have you check it out. We've even got if you go there, we've got a link to our Discord channel. If you want to send me an article, do Discord. It's free, and you can post your articles on there all day long and tell me what you're thinking. Hey, I want to see you cover this one. You can do that, and we've got just a ton of extra content on there, and that is the content that I can't load up. That is content being loaded up on Rumble, and it's not on YouTube for various reasons. So we've made it way more affordable, and there's even an option for, I think, $40 for the year. So less than $4 a month, less than one coffee per month. And you can subscribe and get all this goodness if you think it's good. If it's not, just do your thing. All right. Taco Tuesday. I hope you guys get after it. I wasn't showing the thing, was I? Never mind. ReasonableTV.com. Yeah, I blew that. Next time. Thanks again for being here. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks again.